In some African cultures, circumcision is taken so seriously that a man can't even get a wife or marry if he's not circumcised. And to them, circumcision is not just going to the hospital for a minor surgery, but rather going to the forest to face the knife. And by facing the knife, I mean during the circumcision process, no anesthetic, nor painkillers, or any sort of medication is used. It's just you and a knife. And the tribe that is famously known for this ritual is the Bukusu tribe of Kenya. This tribe holds a very big ceremony each year where over 2,000 boys attend this ceremony. And it's as big as a wedding because it's not just the 2,000 boys attending it, but rather all their relatives are present during this process. Because during the ceremony, their courage and resilience will be put to the test. And to them, this is what defines a man. And it's very important for every boy in this tribe to attend this. Because if they don't attend this ceremony, they will not be considered men. And therefore, they will not marry in their tribe. And in some cases, those boys who get scared and do not attend the process are sometimes considered as outcasts from the tribe. Because in this tribe, for you to inherit even what your father has to offer, you have to be circumcised. So it's a very big ceremony, and it's something very common here in Africa, where it's only not the Bukusu tribe that do this, but also many tribes, like the Maasai. And to them, sometimes it's even more important than a wedding, because to them, it's a time where the whole community is brought together in this ritual process, where they can celebrate now boys being turned into men. To many people, this might be considered as absurd, but this is a ceremony that has stood for thousands of years. Because the government has even tried to stop this ritual, but they've obviously failed. So this is a time where the boys have to prove their confidence and their resilience in order to show the community that they can become a man and that anything can be entrusted to them, be it a wife or be it even the cattle that they can inherit from their fathers. Now, during this process, where the boys should not flinch, it's a very painful process, but at the end of the day, it's harmless. Because you can imagine, it's just a knife that is used on the flesh, nothing else. It's not negotiable in this tribe for any boy to skip this process, because it's something that has been inherited from their grandfathers, their fathers, and now to them. And that's why this process still exists. It's something that every father in this community has to force their son to take part in. It's a non-negotiable process for these boys, because it's also a way for them to prove to their fathers that they can be able to take care of their household when their fathers is not around, because a boy cannot inherit any of their father's wealth if they're not circumcised in this community. So you can see how important it is, because you can imagine for you to inherit your father's wealth or anything that is from your family, you have to be circumcised. On the day before the ceremony, the boy will visit his uncles, who will slaughter a cow and dress them with a piece of meat as a personal gift. So they have to visit their uncle before they can even go through their fathers. This grants the boy permission to proceed with the ritual. So this blessing is a form of weight which the boy lack, because they know very well that the boy might even die during the process. And in several cases, some boys have not made it through the process. So when they go to their uncle, it's just to wish them luck. The slapping of cheeks is a symbol of showing the pain that he's going to go through, because when he's being slapped, he's also being embarrassed in front of the crowd of people that are there to watch him. So it's something for the boys to hold on to as a way of driving them during the pain that they will be going through during the circumcision process. At dawn, the boys are escorted to the river, where they dip themselves in cold water in order to numb their bodies. So because it's a ritual process where I told you before, there is no anesthetic or anything used, they used cold water to numb them. So this is very traditional, and it's something that you cannot imagine exists in the 21st century. So for them to numb their bodies, they use cold water that comes from the rivers. Now, sometimes these rivers are even polluted, but they don't mind at the end of the day, as long as it's cold water. And that's what is tradition to these people. I know it may seem awkward to many people, but it's something that has existed for these people, and it's something that will still continue on. So afterwards, the boy is smeared with mud in front of a crowd of people before they walk on to where the circumcision will take place. So you can imagine the embarrassment that the boys have to go through before they go on to the pedestal where they'll be circumcised. because now, apart from their uncle slapping them, they have to be smeared with mud in front of a crowd of people. So this is really, really a test of bravery. And if there's a definition for testing bravery, this has to be one of them. Yeah? Because surviving these feats just before even reaching the circumcision process, I mean, it's really a test of confidence and bravery. And so this is really what defines a man in this tribe. So as I mentioned before, there are no doctors during the process, only a traditional healer. So you can imagine that they've kept on this tradition for hundreds of years. And I mean, it's kind of impressive. So during the process, the boy must face the knife bravely without flinching to demonstrate their courage. So you can imagine, I mean, how bravery is tested in this community. It's something else. It's something totally out of this world. Because you just can't catch me and expect me to not even blink my eyes. Yeah? So if there's really a definition for testing your courage, I mean, this tribe goes through all of that. Yeah? And once the circumcision is over, the initiate is then escorted into his father's house. So you can imagine how awkward it can be at times. Because you can't just walk into your father's house walking straight. You have to go backwards. So him going into his father's house in a backwards manner is a form of tradition, implying that the boy now should exit from their father's house because he's now a man. Circumcision is sometimes considered a male genital mutilation, more like FGM. But here in Africa and in the Middle East, circumcision is almost a requirement. Take for example the UK. Only 2% of the men there are circumcised, and it's for medical reasons. While here in Africa and where I'm from, everyone is circumcised, including myself. And it's not for medical reasons. It's because it's a process that we all had to go through. So I really wonder, is circumcision only for medical reasons? Because here in Africa, or like where I'm from here in Kenya, you have to be circumcised. Regardless, even if you are a Bukusu or whichever tribe you are from, you have to be circumcised. And it gets so serious because there was even a presidential election where we had this presidential candidate who was being claimed to not be circumcised. And can you imagine that his case of not being circumcised made him to not be elected as a president? Because one of the arguments that was being brought forward to everyone was this presidential candidate is not circumcised, so he should not lead the country. And it gets weird because the Bukusu tribe that we've been talking about had been practicing circumcision even before colonization or even before the missionaries ever came. So how did the Bukusu tribe learn to do this surgical procedure? Because we are taught that it's the missionaries that taught us things like this. But how is it that they knew this before medication and all that ever came around? Anyway, in this channel, we explain these kinds of things where I tell you exactly what goes on in some of the most bizarre, interesting, and most awkward tradition in Africa. Thanks for watching. Click on the next video for more amazing content. This is Africa.